Thanks, and good afternoon. I'm State Representative Tom Demmer from Dixon, and I'm also the minority spokesperson on the Special Investigating Committee that was convened following a petition that was entered into by 3 members of the House of Representatives on August 31st of this year. The committee's investigative powers are very specific. We are charged with understanding whether or not Speaker Madigan engaged in conduct unbecoming a legislator that constituted a breach of the public trust. And much of the investigation is related to what was disclosed and admitted to by Commonwealth Edison over the course of the summer in a landmark deferred prosecution agreement that involved admission of activities over the course of several years designed to reward and influence public official A, who's identified as the Speaker of the House of Representatives. When the committee was convened, the chairman of the committee indicated several times that he wanted the committee to proceed expeditiously. However, here we are on October 6th. The petition was filed on August 31st. The committee has only met twice, and the chairman indicated today that he plans no further meetings for the remainder of the month of October and will not reconvene the Special Investigative Committee until after the election. This is problematic for a couple of reasons. First, the charge of our committee is a very serious one, and it's one that I think we would take seriously and move expeditiously on if it were any other member of the House of Representatives who was indicated in the complaint. What appears to be happening right now is that special treatment is being given to Speaker Madigan, the subject of the complaint, because of the position he holds in the House of Representatives. I don't think that many folks would assume that an investigative committee formed against a first-term member of the House of Representatives would proceed so slowly or have so many roadblocks and delays that are placed in its way. The second point I'd make is Chairman Welch at the beginning of this process indicated a great reluctance to proceed with our investigation for what he described as a worry that we would interfere with the ongoing federal criminal investigations. After multiple communications with the U.S. Attorney's Office, they went so far as to indicate that they did not want to be an impediment in our investigation. However, when that impediment was taken away, Chairman Welch has found other impediments that he's put in the way and found really what seems to be any reason at all not to proceed with our investigation in a timely fashion. This is unfortunate because it deprives the people of Illinois, but more importantly, it deprives our fellow members whose rules have charged us with forming this investigative committee. It prevents Republican and Democratic members of the House of Representatives from learning what conduct the Speaker of our chamber engaged in, and many Democrats who have expressed serious concerns with the conduct that was laid forward in a deferred prosecution agreement and have called for the Speaker to step down, to resign if these allegations are true. This committee should be the place where we're able to shed more light on those allegations, more light on those admitted facts, and help individual members of the House of Representatives better understand what conduct happened and who was responsible for it. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Representative Deanne Mazzocchi.
Thank you. Deanne Mazzocchi, State Representative for the Illinois House 47th District, which I am a resident of Elmhurst, and my district includes part of Eastern DuPage County as well as a portion of Cook County. Chairman Welch's decision is an utter insult to the people of Illinois who want and deserve the truth. Chairman Welch has now become Chairman Squelch. The Speaker has spoken, apparently, as he commonly does, through a surrogate, and now that surrogate is Chris Welch. He's been told one way or another to make it stop. Greg Harris appointed Chris Welch to this role. We've since learned, since that appointment, that Chris Welch went to the Speaker to get support for job recommendations, including for his wife and for his mother. It actually proves one of the points about the power of the Speaker's influence when it comes to these types of job recommendations and appointments. We also know that Chris Welch was a partner at Sanchez and Daniels. Chris Welch was a partner at Sanchez and Daniels. They were also a politically connected law firm that got hundreds of thousands of dollars from ComEd. Was Chris Welch transparent to the committee about this? No. Did he disclose any of this to the members of the committee? No. What did Greg Harris do to ensure that none of his appointees could be influenced by the Speaker? We don't know. But you know what? Chris Welch said that he was going to run a professional investigation. This is not how a professional runs an investigation. This is how a political professional covers up the truth and crushes an investigation. We've had one meeting that went for about 30 minutes, and we had a second meeting where we heard testimony from one witness. And now he wants to put the whole thing on ice for 30 days? No. Maybe it's because Chris Welch doesn't actually trust even his own side of the aisle. The women on his committee, one of the most damaging statements that came out from ComEd was actually in response to a question by Natalie Manley relating to the fact that the only two people who knew about the board recommendation and the board hire of Juan Ochoa was Mike Madigan and Mike McLean. Did he get the agreement of the other women on his committee to do this? Did he talk to any of the other women in his caucus before he unilaterally decided, I'm not going to keep investigating, I'm going to put this committee on hold? If you want to get to the truth of the matter, you issue subpoenas and you move. You don't delay. But it's very clear that the speaker is very afraid of two little words, and those are under oath, and followed up by under penalty of perjury. This decision by Chairman Welch has shown that when it comes to the Illinois House of Representatives, the 12.5 million people in the state of Illinois don't count. The integrity of the Illinois House doesn't count. The members of the Democratic Party who said they want to get to the truth doesn't count. The only thing apparently that matters is protecting Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan. That's what matters to Chris Welch. Protecting his patronage, protecting his political power, protecting his privilege. That is what Chris Welch's decision shows today. That's who he's protecting. This is stonewalling. This is ostrich in the sand decision-making. This is pretending there's not very damaging information out there. The governor himself has said Speaker Madigan needs to answer those questions. And Chris Welch is a coward. He doesn't have the resolve to have Mike Madigan come before our committee and actually answer those questions. He's blocking the right of the voters to know. We have a Speaker of the House mentioned 72 times in a deferred prosecution agreement. We are right before an election and Chris Welch doesn't want to give the voters that transparency. That's despicable. And what he's showing is that Illinois is just as corrupt as everyone says it is, and that the Democrats can't bring real reform to their side of the aisle. They're just going to sit back and enable it. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Representative Grant Worley.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am State Representative Grant Worley, representing Naperville and Warrenville. Today is a sad day throughout the entire state of Illinois. The General Assembly has failed. Chris Welch, a man who up until today I thought was a man of integrity. Yes, we would have our political differences, but at the end, we could speak directly to each other and with each other about issues that were important to the state. Today, Chris has decided that integrity doesn't matter. And that's really sad for all of us in Illinois when a member of the General Assembly is willing to cast aside his own integrity to protect Speaker Michael J. Madigan, public official A. There are Democratic members that have said, if true, he's resign. How will we ever know Chris Welch is going to stonewall what is going on? He's killing this reasons. Has he Natalie Manley and Hernandez rather? I do not know. The governor, you said the speaker needs to come and testify. Are you going to do anything about it, Governor? What are you prepared to do here? Clearly, Chris Welch is going to stop any and all investigation. Governor, you hold the most powerful office in the state of Illinois. Use it. Get answers. We all deserve them. 12.8 million residents of Illinois can clearly see that we're being stonewalled. We're basically being lied to in order to protect one man, public official A. Chris has decided we're not going to do anything until after the election. Well, for a guy that says that this isn't political or that we're trying to politicize this, he certainly has. Does anybody else get this sort of treatment? Would Why the speaker? Why is he allowed to wait 30 plus days? Chris Welch, do the right thing. Rescind your statement, call for this meeting. Let's get moving with the people's business. Stop stonewalling. What you're doing here is unacceptable. 12.8 million residents of Illinois deserve better. We all deserve better. Enough of this nonsense. With that, we'll open it up to questions.
Great. Thank you all. Just a couple questions in so far from Patrick Fingston at the Illinois. Are you investigating legal recourse? Do you believe a judge would have the authority to force subpoenas or hearings?
I'll take that. I think we understand that there's an ongoing federal investigation that's involving the same individuals who are named in the deferred prosecution agreement and that we're interested in their misconduct. This process is a process by which the House of Representatives seeks to investigate and pursue discipline against one of our members. This is the only way that process can happen, is by the House of Representatives. So this is not a case where we can punt to somebody else. That's why this committee was formed, is to get to the bottom of what happened and who's responsible. And that's why this committee should be taken very seriously by members of both sides of the aisle. This is not a place for delays and hopefully somebody else does our work for us. The job is ours. This is the forum in which the job can get done. And that's why we're calling on this committee to continue its important, valuable, and relevant work and provide the accountability in the House of Representatives that every member and every person in the state of Illinois deserves.
Thanks, Tom. From Mike Militich at Quincy Media, hasn't this been political all along? Both sides have taken shots at each other before and after each hearing.
It's interesting. The only people who have been saying this is a political process are the people on the Democratic side of the aisle. We have not. What we have said is this is a quest for the truth. I am an attorney. I got involved in politics precisely because I was sick and tired of public corruption in Illinois. That's what I'm here to do. That's what I am here to fight. That is what we need to stop so that people can look at the state of Illinois and say, this is a place worth building a future here. I don't want people in the state of Illinois to leave. And you know what? One of the things that's causing people to either not come here or to leave is the fact that we have an Illinois House of Representatives that has been headed by the same person for the last 50 years who has created an endemic culture of corruption. The fact that we had a federal deferred prosecution agreement that elevated that corruption, not just from allegations, not just to mere rumor, but to statements of admitted fact, is what made things different this time. To say that this is political, this is not political. This is about, do the people of Illinois deserve to have a House of Representatives that can police itself, that is going to say, we are not going to put up with this garbage anymore. We are not going to be the source of pay-to-play politics. That's what the issue that the people of Illinois need to deal with. That is something that we have to deal with as legislators to preserve the integrity of this House. Is Illinois for sale or is it not? I don't want Illinois to be for sale. I don't want people to have to look at the state of Illinois and say, I can only exist by the blessings of what happens in the Illinois House of Representatives. That's a terrible way for people to live. That's not the rule of law. That's not the way in which our republic is supposed to be governed. So no, this to me is not a political issue. This is entirely about, do we have a government that can police itself? And do we have a government that is willing to say no to corruption? And it is tragic that Chairman Chris Welch decided today to say, I stand on the side of the insider class and not the people of Illinois.
So if I can add to that quickly, we are clearly in search of the truth, and that is something that Chris Welch is clearly showing he wants to distance himself from. Perhaps the polls on their political side are showing that things aren't going their way because of this issue, so they want to shut it down, all in the sake of maintaining power of one man. Is this truly a crusade to keep Speaker Madigan in power at all costs? People of Illinois deserve way better than what Chris Welch is delivering.
Question from Dan Petrella at the Chicago Tribune. What happens if Durkan has to file a new petition in the new General Assembly?
Well, certainly we already have a transcript of what has happened so far. So the ComEd testimony isn't going to change. And that's the whole point. Every single person who's listed in that deferred prosecution agreement still has relevant evidence that they can present to the committee, including Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan. So all that's happening here is Chris Welch is making a point of saying, I want to delay getting at the truth as long as possible. And that's unconscionable.
Okay, and then one more question here from Hannah Meisel. Representative Demmer, why do you believe that Chairman Welch requested from ComEd, what Chairman Welch requested from ComEd is, in quote, a data dump?
Well, what we requested from ComEd was the result of the questioning that I had with Mr. Glockner last week, in which he indicated that Commonwealth Edison was in possession of communications from, in one example, Speaker Madigan's office manager to ComEd, sharing Juan Ochoa's resume for consideration in the board of directors. That was new information to us. That was not something that they had disclosed in the deferred prosecution agreement, and a great example of why that testimony from these witnesses is so important for our committee. In follow-up to that, I asked Mr. Glockner if there were other similar communications related to the deferred prosecution agreement. So our request was a follow-up on questioning, and it was directly related to the deferred prosecution agreement and the petition that our committee has. In contrast, Representative Welch, chairman's request of Commonwealth Edison, was for any and all communications from any governor or legislative leader for the past decade, very, very wide-ranging, and requested things that frankly have little to no connection to the deferred prosecution agreement. So, while we're working through the information the committee has, trying to do this in a responsible and expeditious way, we think that it's probably makes sense for us to prioritize first. Let's get information about the behavior that's alleged in the petition. Let's get information from people who are directly party to that behavior before we go, asking for any and all records from hundreds of people over the course of a decade.
Sure. And Hannah, just to follow up on that as well, again, Chris Welch is a lawyer, and Chris Welch already indicated that he wanted to come up with an excuse for why people wouldn't have to appear by if he thought that something was going to be overbroad or unduly burdensome. So what does Chris Welch then turn right around and do? He tries to create a request that ComEd could easily say was overbroad and unduly burdensome, so that he would be able to say, oh, well, they're not cooperating. So I understand exactly what he was doing in terms of trying to create a legal hat trick. But this is, what he's doing is he's obstructing every effort the members of this committee have been making to try to get at the truth of what happened.
Great. That was all the questions we got. Thank you all. And also, just so you know, I will be sending out a statement shortly from Leader Durkin as well for any of your news coverage. So with that, if you guys need the video of this, just let me know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in.